Today on Gamer's Couch,
Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island.
hello,
Island?
welcome. Island? What?
Islands? Island?
It's one island.
Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Couch.
Yeah. Since when? Is he called Robinson?
No.
No? Whomever that is. Welcome to the couch. Today.
Maybe his dad or mom is called Rob. And he could be Robinson.
Who knows? Things to explore and find out. Now for real. Let's start. Welcome to the couch. Happy Sunday. Today we're talking about the game Robinson Crusoe. And if you're new to the channel or haven't watched this particular series yet, every Sunday we talk board games. And I'm Sarah, the artist behind Pinselgeschichten. This is my lovely husband Daniel. And his part on the first half of the video is to explain rules and gameplay of whatever game we have on the couch. And then we talk about what we liked, maybe not liked about a game, and then we tell you a bit about maybe funny stories that we had or any kinds of experiences while playing the game. Now, there is no scripted part here, so it might get a bit goofy or weird, so just sit tight, take your beverage of choice, maybe some snacks, lean back and enjoy. Today it's Robinson
Crusoe. Caruso.
Caruso. So tell me, how does it play? What is it?
I'll try to provide you with those first 30% of a YouTube video that you can happily skip, and if you're not interested in the rules, just check below. There's a timestamp to click if you want to go into what we think about the game. As with every game that plays on an island, let's take a look at our island, or let's take a look at our game board to get a better idea of what we will be talking about. Why? Because Robinson Crusoe at its heart is a worker placement game, but I wouldn't call it that way. I'll get to that in a second. So, actually, let's make this so that... Okay. So, the game... in fact, has multiple things going for it. You can see the entire turn phase around this board. There's the map, that's the island, and you will uncover the island and put tiles on here as you discover more and more locations. And you will go through different things that will be done on your turn, or well, you have a planning phase where you set out and say, hey, I'm going to discover new lands, and someone else says, well, I'm going to go hunting, and so on. So the things you can do on the island are, well, there's one thing you cannot do, but there's an event that's coming up every turn, except for the first, that you can deal with down here, so you can spend your worker to deal with that. You can go hunting if you found wild animals, but to hunt wild animals, you have to explore the island. They just don't show up on their own. You can build something. These spaces here will be filled with little carts that look like these, which provide you with, well, technology that you can research. Something mundane as, well, you discovered fire, up to something like you found a rope, or you, found a map or created a map of the thing. You can also go gathering for food, so not only hunting animals, but you can, well, run around the island and gather food from other parts of the island as soon as you have discovered them. You can go discover things on the island, so you can, as you can see, every place where there's a little guy on here, or two little guys, you can place your workers and then do that. You can also clean up the camp, so just as a building up morale kind of thing. Cleaning your room is always good for morale. Remember that, kids. And then tell that to your parents whenever they come up and say, hey, clean up the room. Well, you know it's really good for your morale if you're going to do that. Or you can instead just lie under a palm tree and recover lost health. And yeah, that's pretty much it. After that, you just have to, well, withstand the forces of nature by checking if there's bad weather coming, or if what the night is doing to you. And up here is just the, what does your camp look like? How much resources do you have in here? Or do you have a camp? Does the camp have a roof? Does the camp have palisades, so like a wall that protects it? Do you have tools to hunt animals? And so on. Now that's a lot. And it's actually pretty vague. The reason for that is that Robinson Crusoe has, well, I would go so far to say it's almost like 6 games that all take place in the same setting, because you will have these little tiles that explain to you what your job is. There are different scenarios, 6 of them in the game. One where your ship has broken, you're stranded on the island, you try to pile up wood and light it in order to have the ship that's coming around in the last 3 turns hopefully notice you and take you back into a world with less tigers running around, or at least more caged tigers. Then there's that's not all of them.
No, no, it's all. It has a backside. Wow.
I just have to.
I'm awake. You don't have to test me.
There's the second scenario, the cursed island, where you have, well, the island is cursed and you have to go around and try to lift the curse from the island before, well, bad things happen to you. There's another scenario called Jenny Needs Help, which is not involving a dog necessarily, but and actually there's also not a fountain where someone fell into. This is about trying to help one of your friends, retrieve them, and do so before they die. It almost sounds like a TV series, like an episode out of a TV series. There's a volcano. Well, guess what happens there? You try to, well, get away from dying in horrible fire. And last but not least, there's the island of the cannibals and Family Robinson, which is almost like the most Euro of these things, that is all about can you develop the most tech possible. And if you haven't gathered it so far, you work together to try to beat the island before the island beats you. Which brings me to the classification of the game. As I said, officially it's probably closer to worker placement. I will like to call it, it's a despair engine type game where doom and gloom was after every turn, after every corner, and whenever you think you just caught a breath, the game will come in and just punch you into the ground and say you will not get away here with a happy feeling at all. If you get away at all, it will be after suffering tremendous losses of sanity and, well, social niceties, like talking in a normal voice to other people instead of shouting at them for being not good at hunting or doing that stuff. So whom are you with on the island? Well, it's a game that can be played with up to 4 players, and there's rules for throwing stuff onto the floor. No, there's rules for playing less with 4. I think you can also play it solo. Let's check quickly. Yes, it says 1 to 4, and by the way, just reading off the box, 60 to 120 minutes, which is pretty accurate. And you can play either as the carpenter, the chef, the explorer, yes, and the soldier. Each of those have specific, unique abilities that make some things easier, but all of them come with wooden tiles that allow them to be used as workers in this game. So you always start with 2 tiles and can do stuff with it. Now, you've seen on that board, some spaces have 1 guy on there, some have 1 or 2 guys on them. The way that works is you can either just place 1 of your workers on that and just kind of devote half of your day to doing that task, but maybe risk something terrible happening, or maybe not succeeding. You just, well, it's a calculated risk at that point. Or you can commit your full workday onto that and, well, then it succeeds. The things you can do, as I said, are either, well, mostly revolving around try to gather resources to stay alive, because you have to eat, well, each day in order to survive. But you also need resources to build a camp, because otherwise you will take damage each night, because sleeping on the floor, especially if it's not cleaned up, is pretty bad for morale and much worse for health issues. So you want to build a camp, but you probably don't want to build a camp anywhere. You want to find a good spot on the island first to build a camp, and then start ramping up that production engine by bringing in more resources, building better tools to assist you in building even more better tools to get more resources, and hopefully at some point be able to reach the objective of the game. And the objective is quite different between all of those. So let's say for the first one, that is quite simple. It's just to try to produce or to gather as many resources as possible in order to light that pile of wood and escape, while not dying to harsh weather conditions or being mangled by the crocodile that is running around the island as well, because crocodile and tigers always are together on islands. It's the way of things. And you try to just survive and endure through that, whereas in another scenario you might have to gather wood as well, but you need that to build crosses to lift the curse on the island and have to travel a lot more, making things quite interesting and really amping up the replayability. One thing that happens each turn, and as you've seen, the scenarios kind of describe to you how many turns there are and how they go, but the turn order is always the same. So at first you will draw an event card. These cards look like these and are two-sided. The reason for that is there's one side with an immediate effect that comes whenever that card comes into play, will be played, and then there's a long-term effect that will happen whenever that card leaves the board. So you might not have seen that at first, but if one of these event cards is drawn, it is placed on here, the next card will move this card over here, and if that card is leaving the board, then that really negative effect at the bottom is happening. You can prevent that by solving the task that is down here, and that is why this is also a place where you can put your worker on. But usually these cards come with a couple of conditions that you must fulfill in order to solve them, like you must have the shovel developed, or you must spend a resource to, well, yeah, get rid of the card. As soon as there's an empty spot, you have a breather there, because the next event will not necessarily push out one of these cards, so you can always kind of try to figure out which is the worst option, which do you want to go for. Maybe it's not that bad at all, and you can just, well, take that event in and do that. Another thing that is different with these is some have a little book on here, and that is a scenario-specific event. So the scenario card will have a little thing on here that says, if the book is drawn, then this happens. Whereas the question mark means that you will put one of these question mark tiles onto the different card stacks, which brings us to the different card stacks. As I said, you can do things like building, exploring with one guy or with two guys. You can even team up with another player to, if you don't want to spend both of your little discs on that. However, if you just play one guy, then you have to first off roll these dice, and there's a set of dice for each of the different things. So green for exploring, brown for building, and gray for gathering stuff. And depending on what you roll, you are either successful or victorious. That's the V has come to it. It's a very apt Metal Gear Solid reference that is coming in today. Or if you fail, you get two, I don't really know how they're called. We just call them star tokens, but I don't know the English word for them. They're certainly think of these tokens as the currency that you have to spend for performing special actions with your character. So that's one way of getting those. Another is completing these events, or going to the cleaning up the camp. I think, yeah, cleaning up the camp does that. But there's nothing else to it. It's just a currency that you can spend to use your special abilities per turn. The second die determines if you will take a wound, which is very appropriate if you're trying to build something. Hammer meets thumb more often than you'd like to, and then you take a wound. By the way, if any of the adventurers dies, game over, start again. And the third die has this question mark on here, meaning you have to draw one of these question mark cards from the appropriate tile. If the token is on here, you have to draw a card regardless, even if you commit 2 workers to that pile. So maybe it's a good idea to just commit 1 if you have to draw a card anyway, and just risk taking a wound and probably not making it. The probabilities for these dice are different, so there's a different set of probabilities on the green dice than on the brown dice, and so on. Actually, the manual is pretty nice because it tells you how many symbol is on each side for each given die type. Now, these cards here are very rarely a blessing, most of the time bad news. Again, these are two-sided, and I can spoil so much. I already like this kind of mechanic very much. Again, something that happens immediately, something that happens later. The difference is these cards get shuffled into your event pile deck, and whenever you draw them, the effect later triggers and usually says, well, do this event and draw another card. So these just start filling up your event deck, and you may shuffle them in there, but it'll get more and more difficult to avoid them over time. And once the cascade of terrible things is starting to happen, you're pretty bad off. So the thing with these is some of them just say, well, put this into the event stack and then something terrible happens. So this says there's a storm brewing, put it into the event stack, and when it's drawn, then a storm happens and you will lose some of your camp walls if you're not careful, and you cannot really do something against that. More interestingly, some of these cards offer stuff like, well, you found some rotting wood. If you want, you can build something with it, but you already know that's not a good idea. And that card offers you a choice where you say, either take 2 wood now, use that to whatever, build your camp or something like that. But if that card gets drawn from the event stack, then the wood breaks, and you kind of have to weigh between, do you want to have the wood now, or do you skip that and do that? It's a really nice thing to work with. Other things you can do is, as I said, exploring, and you will explore the map by flipping over these map tiles, and each comes with a little symbol for either you can find food on this area or you can find wood on this area. They also have a terrain type, which is important because if you take a closer look at the development cards, they have the very same symbol up here. In fact, the icons up here are the requirements for you to be able to build this. So being able to develop an antidote only works after you found this kind of terrain, and can then commit one of your workers to the brown area to build this, and then, well, unlock maybe other things. So there are some of these things, like the map requires you just to find the terrain, similar to the antidote. But for example, there's some other things, like this javelin requires you to have a piece of wood at the time you want to develop that, but you also are required to have the knife already being present in your we develop that kind of thing stuff. So yeah, I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what is available to you at each turn. There's some other little things like you have starting equipment, or you, if you're really lucky, one of those question mark cards may yield you one of these cards and say, hey, you found an old revolver, now go shoot something, if not yourself, because you're probably not going to make it anyway. And these give you some special abilities in here. Oh yeah, one or two things I missed. As I said, you can go hunting, and there's a stack of animal cards. So if you uncover one of these island spaces that has, let's see if I can find one there, that has this little animal icon on here, you will move these cards from the stack of animals onto the space for you can go hunting, and then you can try to encounter one of these. And they can be something, well, very simple to beat, like these goats that are very easily to be killed. You just need a weapon strength of 4. They will wear out or wear down your weapons by 1, but they give you 3 food and 1, well, animal skin. Whereas if you're unlucky and find the alligator, then you will have to inflict 6 points of damage in order to beat him. He will wear down your weapons by 2 and only give you 3 food, nothing else. He's a pretty annoying kind of guy going forward. So, and obviously there's some stuff in there, like if you don't have weapons that are strong enough to beat that, then you will take damage, and each character has their unique little damage track down here on the sheet, which will, well, if you run out of health points, as I said, you lose the game. It doesn't matter who runs out of health points. Nobody is allowed to die in Robinson Crusoe. There are also arrows on here, and whenever you go past one of these arrows, you will in fact lose morale. And there's just before or actually after drawing an event card, there's a morale track up here. So if your morale is good, you get some of these ability coins for free to the starting player. But if not, you start losing those coins. And as with anything in this game, if you have to pay and cannot pay, things get ugly, because you then either have to substitute with some other resource or with your life, because, well, if you don't have something to eat, it's not that good. There are some other things that are introduced if you're not playing with 4 people, like you can have Friday support you, or you can have a little dog that supports you, which are essentially just additional workers that you can place on the board. I'm pretty sure you could also play with 4 characters, a single game without too many problems. If that's that kind of game and you enjoy playing that solo, or if you're playing with 2, each of you can play 2 characters. It's a cooperative game. There's no hidden information between the players or something that you can do there. I think there's only one card type I haven't talked about. There's well, these treasures, monsters, and traps, which you have to draw at certain points in time. These are sometimes good, again, most of the time not that good. And so you try to get through the island alive and hopefully home, or, well, at least build your little Robinson Empire with all the technology that you have discovered. To skip even more and confuse you, some of the other things that will happen, I just briefly mention it. Weather, you will roll these weather dice, and again they will drain either your resources or they will start destroying your camp. But these weather dice are the actual reason why you want to build up a better roof on your camp, because otherwise rain will really make you freeze and make you hungry for some reason. In order to get past rain, you're eating a lot, and if you don't have something to eat, guess what? You're taking a wound, like always.
Because hot soup fights the cold.
Yeah, but these
If
are...
you don't have hot soup, you're freezing, so you get a cold.
I don't think it's hot soup. It's all bananas.
No, my cook can make a Stein soup.
A stone soup.
Stone soup, Stein soup, whatever. Blah, talking.
It's yeah. See, the German lesson of the day comes this time from Sarah, not from me.
Yeah, well, we gotta switch things
The
up once
Stein
in a while. The Stein soup.
And if you're confused, yes, it's the same thing that you drink beer from because it's made of stone. That's why it's called a Stein. Stein, not Stein. It's whatever.
Unless you're very up north, where they say
it's like
Stein.
saying Stein. See? Easy.
Whatever.
Do you want to talk about what you think?
Yeah,
about
let's.
this game?
I was just about to ask: are you finished and done, and you've got your label looking there?
Yeah,
are you good with explanation? I think you covered it all.
I think I'm good. There's, as I said, there's just little stuff that is just there to make things more different. Like you have these little tokens which you can find on the island, which mean different things depending on the scenario. And that's not crucial to get a good idea of the game. The base game is literally flip over event card, then send out your guys to either build something, discover something, hunt something, or try to survive
Explore.
something and do that a couple of times, not dying, while building your engine of despair to hopefully get you out of there with at least 1 point of life on each character sheet.
That would be nice, right? So let's talk about likes and dislikes. So I think we had this game on our we're gonna buy it at 1 point list for a while.
It was recommended.
Yeah.
To buy.
Yeah, but we didn't just decide on the spot. Yeah, that looks nice. We're buying that now. We just take it. We had it on the watch list for a while. So we picked it up this summer and tried it for a couple of rounds, and we're gonna get into those in the experiences. But once unpacking, what I really liked was quality and artwork of the game, even before playing. And I'm very I'm very picky, I think, when it comes to quality of components and artwork, art style, all that kind of just don't screw the camera.
No, it doesn't focus, so
yeah.
I just wanted to point out there's something on here which you probably can't see from there.
Right, because it's not it's focused on us. We are important.
I
anyway,
just wanted to
you wanted to distract me. So I really liked the artwork. It's very good in the way to transport the adventure and tension kind of part of the game. And I really liked that. And one other thing that I admired a lot was that this game, though you could probably have another theme or subject with it, it doesn't feel as if the theme of Robinson Crusoe and trying to survive an adventure is plastered on the game. The way the mechanics are done and used in this game very much plays to the tension and trying to survive, grinding kind of feel of the game. So the theme, the subject is perfect for you really get... At more than one point, I felt some kind of anxiety at the table while playing. So I really like how the theme or the subject of the game plays into the mechanics. I'm very sure you could put any other adventure type kind of story on the game itself, but it doesn't feel as if it's just plastered on and you could go with any story that you might come up with. So I really liked that. And one other thing that I'm very much looking forward to, we didn't play that yet, but one other thing that I very much enjoy about the game is that it comes with 6 scenarios, and they're only, at least from the large scenario sheets, they look quite different when it comes to objective when it comes to, of course, the story, maybe the way you play the game. So replayability, I think, is very, very high with this game. It's not just, okay, you're stranded on the island in the morning, you're stranded on the island at noon, you're stranded in the island at night. No, it's different kinds of stories that are so far apart with what they tell, like Volcano Island versus Family Robinson, which very much reminds me of the 80s TV show. It's very different, and I like that it's that, of course, theme, story, subject are different, but probably you will use the different parts of the game, like the mini games, as I like to call them. You probably use them differently in the scenarios, and I very much like that. Another thing that I'm quite fond of is that, as he already said, it feels like 6 games that you play in one game, which very much reminds me of Space Cadets, one of my very, very favorite games, at least the co-op version of it. But it's not like with Space Cadets, everybody has their tiny minigame that they play, but everybody plays 6 minigames just by the options that you have where to put your little tokens and therefore your workers. So I think I really, yeah, it reminds me very much about, you know, when we played, and we're gonna get into that with the experiences, when we played with a full set of players, it was, well, we preferred certain actions that we did because our characters had maybe an advantage, but it was not that I never went hunting. Although I might be the captain, you know, so
yeah, but
I really like that.
But when I think about Space Cadets, I think about...
I never did another minigame. I'm always just having 2 stations. It never changes. With this, it changes.
Yeah, but this has no minigames.
No, but they kind of feel like minigames because you have different kinds of stations and parts that you do. You could go exploring, you could go... building something, you could go hunting, you could go do this and that, and very often, or more often than not, you put 2 workers at one spot just because we and rolling dice, you know. It might be different with other players, not with us. So in that turn, you can pretty much only do one thing that is very important. So it feels like a game in a game. So I qualify that to be kind of a mini game. At least it feels like that for me.
I think that underlines the theme part as well. So if
very
you're
much
feeling like you're doing a game within a game, although it is just placing the little wooden disc on the...
Yeah, and I very much like the way it's done. It's... Well, yeah, thinking about it, analyzing the game as we do, it's quite obvious that what the mechanics do, how it feels, what the probably the objective of the designers was. But the first 2 times that we played the game, and I was more in the state of, okay, I want to explore the game, I want to enjoy it, I just want to see how it goes and not really analyzing anything about the game. It was not that obvious that you have a game in a game in a game in a game. So I just really, really liked that. One thing that well, I don't want to say I'm too keen on that, but on the other hand, we knew that going in playing the game, it's not an easy game. There's hardly a bounce back. Just like with many co-op games. This is I would, to a certain extent, also qualify this as a grinder. You really gotta keep going. And even if you think, we're never gonna make it, we have like 2 turns, possibilities are really low, keep going to the very end, it might drag for a turn or two, but then you might have some opportunity to actually do it. So it's, well, like I said, we knew that going in, that as we like to do, well, categorize this game. This is one of the games that really hands you your ass on a silver platter with some red velvet. And well, it for one side makes it really maybe not the first choice of a game on a certain game. That I can't play it every night. I can't play it even every Sunday. But it being so horribly difficult once in a while, like most often, and it really feeling very grindy, if you succeed, the success feels way more overwhelming. And I think it gives me maybe 3 doses of endorphins and stuff like that in comparison to other games where we play.
Did you think it was unfair in times, or do you...
Unfair, like the game was too strong?
Yeah,
or were we just maybe unlucky drawing some things?
So my question is, as you said, the game is difficult, but there's different ways about difficulty. More like there's a puzzle type of difficulty where it's difficult, but if you figure out what you have to do, then you know it's easier, and that is the
that's
part,
one thing.
Which is less unfair, or is it more a luck-based thing of...
I think it's a combination of two. I think you gotta figure out the puzzle part is not unfair, because I think that's actually quite interesting. It at least for me, I'm way more involved at the table with these kinds of games where I can see, okay, there is a logical way to figure out to make it be fair. And I'm not happy with the word, but that's fine. But to actually play it once, twice, 3 times, to say, yeah, that's the way to go. And then whenever you play that scenario with that kind of order on what to focus on, you have a very high chance to at least somewhat succeed. The other thing is that you could probably be very unlucky with drawing cards, and we had that in, I think, 1 or 2 games, and we dive into that once we go to the experience section. But that bothers me more. And it's not even the dice. We were 50-50 lucky, unlucky with the dice, which is kind of surprising for us. But the cards are not easier than... I think they're even worse and even meaner than the dice. So the dice pretty much might help you out and prevent you from
not getting... These, to be clear. These
no.
Are...
The brown, green, and grey ones. If you're really good and you don't have a question mark, you're super lucky. I don't care about the wound. I just don't want it. The worst thing is actually the question mark for me. It's not even the wound. The wound. What the heck?
Even the die that decides if you're victorious or not, it just has one side that gives you it's not a victory, and even those coins come in handy.
I think the biggest punishment is when you roll a question mark. I think that was personally I don't
rolling a heart, and for example, gathering just has one heart on here, whereas the exploration has 3 hearts on, and the brown die
you can fall
has
into a pit.
4 hearts on it. So
but I don't like the wounds. I don't say I want one, but could I choose between a question mark and a wound? I would take the wound.
Yeah, I think
the question marks. No, because they impacted all of us and not just one character.
But most of these go
and you
to
can
the event
heal
stack
one.
and
Yeah,
come
but
later on.
Right, right. When you worked and
work.
No, it's a Swedish and then fuck you. You're gonna lose. So, anyways, I'm somewhat okay with that mechanic. I think if you know that going in, it probably won't bother you as much.
So my question about the difficulty was more in terms of, would you replay that scenario now that you know how to beat it?
No, because we only beat it with 3 points during that game where we got quite lucky. You remember the last scenario that we played, the last game, we were in round 8 and we were almost losing.
Don't want to go into the
No. So
my question is, do you think?
I don't think that we beat it. We were lucky at one point, which helped us beating it at once. But playing it same next time doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to win.
So my question is, would you consider each of these scenarios like something, for example, as ghost stories? So would you replay those? And still feel the challenge about that, or is this something where you say, okay, we've beaten scenario 1, and now we know at least what to prioritize? And
we know the broad way to win, but there's too many variables that could still spit you in the face and say, "Fuck you, you're going to lose anyways." So it's like Ghost Story in that turn.
That was my question regarding the puzzly difficulty, because with some games we play, it's if you know how to solve that puzzle, the feel of the game kind of goes away. But I would agree that this is. While I'm now more curious to see all the other scenarios, I could imagine that under those there's 1 or 2 that we will replay even after beating it, because it's just a fun challenge. In fact, I don't know if that's only for the German version, but Pegasus even has a 7th scenario which you can download and print out. That is about going to the island, housing King Kong, and trying to find him. So there's that's also something I think is really interesting, that they can just put out these scenario cards and really add a lot to that game. Obviously within the limitations of the rule system there, but you can go a long way with that. And one of the main things for that is, and that is something I really like about it, about Robinson Crusoe. This game is actually not about Robinson Crusoe. This game is about the island. All those scenarios, the island is kind of the main protagonist of this game, which has different facets, I think, in different settings.
I think it got the name Robinson Crusoe because it is the most famous character in literature that's stranded on an island. Nowadays, if it would be printed now, it would be called Tom Hanks. But
no, I don't.
No, but I think it just has that name because you associate adventure, stranded on an island, trying to survive with it, right? Or maybe it would be called Lost or something.
Something. I think that while and everything in this game pertains to that kind of genre, I don't think it's specifically just one story that's being told, but this is about the genre of stories, movies, what have you, that happen on islands that are very similar, like The Lost World, or
I wouldn't be surprised if there's somehow a pirate story in there, or maybe would be coming up in later scenarios if it isn't already in one. I didn't read that, by the way. It also fits very nicely into the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, don't feel like it.
Not
necessarily. Okay.
No, well, those cards that come with events are more about the stuff that you would find on an island. Like, you found a hidden temple, you found a wild animal, a trap, or something like that. It's not particularly about specific types of people you meet there. And while all the artwork suggests a specific time, like these. The soldier looks very much like what's it, like 18th century explorers?
I would say
Early-
early
Early
late
19th?
1800 something.
It could be.
I would say 18th century.
It's that island could also be
Yeah.
something along akin to Jumanji or some of these. But as I said, I really like that the island in this game is the point, and that
Yeah.
allows it to expand and use that as a setting for all those different scenarios, which is really interesting. And
The artwork, since you just triggered it, it reminds me very much of stories like Jules Verne or Tarzan, for example. The British Empire kind of exploring the world, that era. I think it's especially with the soldier.
I would say pretty much adventure movies or stories we used to watch and read when we were kids or young adults. As I said, something like I think it's called The Lost World, like this island with dinosaurs, or island with big ape on it, or island with some cursed things, almost like Indiana Jones Quatermain types of stories that revolve around that. And for I think that is why the theme in this game works so great, because it's not just a pirate thing, or it's not just a.
It's quite broad.
Yeah, it's all about that island, and the map looks like a map.
I think the actual subject is adventure and not
the
Robinson
things
Crusoe.
I held up, like the artwork that looks like something someone would scribbled in a notebook to document the plans of the island.
Yeah.
So that really works nicely, I think, for this game. And I also like that it's really difficult. I mean, co-op games, most of them, their shelf life or their replayability is depending on how difficult it is to beat. It shouldn't be impossible, and this certainly, it feels challenging. It does not feel impossible. This is one of the few games we played where after losing the first 2-3 times, that left me with, I really want to try again, or keeping in my mind of, okay, if we had done this differently, or maybe tried this or that strategy.
We analyzed right away at the table
which,
on what we might have done wrong.
Yeah, which also is
curious to go again, and instead of shelving it for the night, going the next night. No,
which
we want it again.
Is also a testimony how captivating that is.
How did you like the manual? You are the master of the manual. Was it okay? Was it easy to read? It seemed quite easy to teach. It's
a pretty big manual. That said, so this is the explanations, FAQs, and stuff for the scenarios and so on. The manual itself has a lot of information, and you've seen me jumping around the board and say, hey, you can do this and this, and there's a ton of stuff that you can do with the game. Last but not least, because there's so many stations available and so many steps you can do. The good thing, or what we did on the first game, is literally went through with these are the phases, and then each phase is explained in detail. And we literally played the first round out of this manual, kind of just going through, okay, and this is what you do here and then there, and everything else was pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that we had to look up more often than not was the cards, specifically if you have some of these cards, like the antidote. You don't really know what you're going, why? What is it for? Until you then
because of snake bites.
Later find out there's other cards that reference that card. So at the beginning it's just a little bit confusing because you're missing the context of what it does and what you can use it for. But I think for a first game that's fair, because you will have to replay this a couple of times anyway. So yeah, you can go with it. So for that reason, the menu was pretty good, and every question we had was found explained in here, at least in the reference section.
We didn't have to ask any FAQ on the net.
Yeah. There's a little help thing in here that also explains to you what are the phases, what you can do in the phases, and that is helpful as well. And on the back side, it also gives you a reference of what are the probabilities on the dice, which animal strengths are available. So you have pretty good idea of what you're going to encounter. So thumbs up.
Yay! So let's rate.
Sure.
So what's your rating?
This gets Let's
crocodile and a fox out of a skull face.
No. This gets a gorilla out of 10, and you will shuffle that gorilla back into your event card, and later on he followed you to your home and then forces you to play this game until you beat it, which either happens or you will die of not eating.
Didn't the gorilla bring bananas?
It's the gorilla's bananas.
Oh boy. Well, on my personal scale of 1 to awesome, this so far is an 8. I'm leaving a bit of room for the other scenarios. I'm very sure, or I'm pretty sure, that once we played all the scenarios, it would probably end up at a 10, but I'm not sure yet. It could be that the other scenarios look greater than they are, which I kind of not think, but that's why I leave it with a bit of space at an 8.
If I had to recommend this, I would probably say if you played co-op games already and have a couple of them under your belt, this is a really good advanced kind of co-op game, also kind of worker placement game. But you must be okay with having a very frustrating first couple of
I wouldn't recommend it as the first ever co-op game you play. Not even if you played like maybe Pandemic: The Cure. Have one or two other co-op games played before you hop on into this one. I think.
I think if you suffered the frustrations under Ghost Stories and enjoyed that,
this is the one.
This is a very a game that has way more gears that are turning and makes things I think more interesting. I mean, Ghost Stories ultimately comes down to rolling a couple of dice and trying to get away with banishing
Not
the
if
ghost.
You have the crystals of the White Moon.
Well, that's with the expansion, but I was just
you're talking base game.
Talking about the base game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, but that kind of frustration or difficulty. If you enjoy playing Ghost Stories on hard or nightmare mode, this is probably a thing you might want to take a look at.
Yeah. So let's hop into the last section, funny stories and experiences, and I think we have a lot to share.
No, we are horrible with rolling dice. We are horrible with drawing cards.
Well, we were really horrible with these three. With the others, we were actually no, only bad, not horrible.
But we
were pretty good.
It's not we were horrible with these dice, because it was just one person who rolled these dice.
Honey, the thing about being married is that it's your fault too if I roll shitty dice in co-op games.
No.
No, it was only actually in the last game. The games before, I wasn't that bad with rolling these dice. That's why I took on that task in the last game.
I think that's because we did not survive until the bad weather phase.
No, we did, but we didn't have the wood stack. So...
The wood stack.
Let me give you the great picture here. So we played this game 5 times. We played it once with just the two of us, because we always test games if they are playable for two before we have them on the table when we have gaming night with our lovely friends. So then we played it with 3 for another 3 times. And then we played it with 4, and that was the 5th game that we had last Sunday. So we didn't make it to the phase with all the 3 dice when we played just the 2 of us, and I think 1 game or 2 games of the 3 people playing. We definitely had it in the last game with 3 people. We had all 3 dice. And I wasn't that terrible with rolling them. I was actually pretty good. But we just didn't have enough wood on the pile so the ship wouldn't see us. We lost horribly, and I think Styx succumbed to his wounds or something like that. But yeah, there were other reasons than the weather for losing / dying. And one of them, my dear sweetie, and that's totally your fault.
Mine? Oh.
Or, yeah, the one with the fur and the wood. So.
Oh. Well, but that was a misunderstanding.
Right, but if the weather is my fault, then it is your fault. Otherwise, it's like it was just a misunderstanding, or just maybe not comprehending the words in the rules. So we actually made the game way harder than it was supposed to be.
It's the difficulty you want to play this at.
Yeah. Instead of horrible, we had nightmare.
Yeah. So if you
but we had a lot of fun with it.
If you take a look at the map, so you can either read this as pay 2 wood and 1 piece of fur, or as an oar, which seems to be the correct interpretation of the thing. Nobody can see what you're doing behind this.
You can.
Let me
you
hold.
Can see it.
Let me hold this board in a more critical friend. So it might have been.
Oh, it was.
There's a possibility there that we
very high probability.
Amped up the difficulty by a teensy bit, by forcing us to pay more.
It was actually surprising to me that once we played it with the correct rules, that you either use wood or fur, how much of a difference that made. I wouldn't. Yeah. Why do you talk German to me? Why do you say echt instead of really?
I was saying actually.
Oh, actually. Okay.
Actually. Really, but I thought it wasn't. Yes, it was very difficult with the resources, but it didn't. That's why we kept going. It did not feel like out of place.
No. It felt totally reasonable that you had to have wood and fur to build the hut and roof and walls and whatnot. But I think it was the 3rd game. Yeah, 3rd game that we looked that up again, because Stick said, well, this is the thing that always makes us lose. We don't have fur early enough because we do not necessarily get the tiles when we explore where we have an animal to kill and stuff like that.
And that I think only showed up because with 3 that would require you to pay more fur than you were actually able to get by. Right.
And but while we were playing the first two rounds, I was not suspicious of you maybe have misread something, because it felt reasonable.
With 2, you just need 2 pieces of wood and 1 piece of fur, and that's...
Yeah, but it was a lot of laughs, because usually it's Sticks that makes games more difficult by suggesting something to add to the game.
He's complaining about difficulty.
Ooh, it was critical. So, yeah, but I didn't, what I also liked, and this is more coming out way more now with the experiences, that game scales nicely. Though we finally won the 5th game, or the 5th try of the first scenario, I didn't feel that it was way easier because we played with a full set of players instead of 3 people or maybe 2 with Friday or the dog.
Yeah.
No, it was turn 8 that we were actually thinking, well, are we going to stop the game now? Because the probability that we are going to win is like 5%. And then it was like, no, we gotta try, and if we lose gloriously, and stuff like that. So we kept playing, and then, haha, we won. It was like, what the heck? Okay, good that we kept playing. But it didn't feel, oh, we got a 4th character. It's so much more easy now. We can do more. No way.
I think the comparing it to other games, Pandemic, the regular bot Pandemic, feels easier to me if you have a higher amount of players.
Yes.
Same goes for Shadowrun Crossfire. Also, really difficult game.
Yes.
But it starts feeling easier the more the more characters you have in play. If you play with take 2 characters per player instead of playing with 1 each.
Yeah. Funny enough, other games like, for example, Ghost Stories base game and also the White Moon expansion and Pandemic the Cure do not feel that much more difficult with 2 players in comparison to 4 for me. It's only the other games that do that.
Actually, I think that Ghost Story also feels slightly easier with more players. But that's all games that are also depending on territorial control or area control in some regards. Pandemic is prime example for that, because the more spread out your team is, even though you draw more cards for outbreaks, you have always someone who's actually closer to where you have to be to prevent something terrible going on. Same for Ghost Stories. You only have, in quotation marks, 9 tiles to move to, but having someone close to the tiles... I mean, the worst thing with Ghost Stories that can happen is you're too far away from the place you have to be to get rid of...
With this, the only difference that I actually realized with 4 players instead of 2 or 3 is the morale track. So we had some workers per turn, or almost every turn, not all the turns, maybe like, I don't know, 75% of the turns. We had 1 worker that could clean up the camp and actually keep morale pretty high, so that the starting player of every turn would have those tokens to actually use his or her special ability. That's the only difference that really presented itself when we played with 2, 3, or 4 players. We struggled way more with 2 or 3 players to have the morale way up.
I think we just did not focus on that.
Yeah, we didn't have... because we
place.
Didn't have players for that, no workers.
But also because we did have to gather more wood and fur than was necessary. I think
I mean playing it right. I was the last round that we played with 3 players, where we played it with the correct rules. Even then, we were too busy hunting, building, collecting, and all that, just that we hardly ever had time to heal or clean up the camp.
Yeah, but I think we could have gone in. We could play this with 2 or 3 and still prioritize at the very first 2 turns to amp up morale again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what you
learn. That's the
spoilers,
broad puzzle.
kind of. Yeah. But if you hold your ears now or go to somewhere else. If you, but like the one of the key things for us to understand in this first scenario was like morale is important, and really being able to have something against the weather in the later turns was also very important. And I guess that's not really spoiling the puzzle aspects.
No, but it makes things way easier if you go into the first game with the knowledge you gotta amp up the morale.
Well, those are two things you should keep in mind or keep an eye on.
And that on the early turns, it doesn't really, or it didn't help us when we started amping up morale at turn 5. We had to go turn 1 for the first half of the turns, amp up morale, really keep it high, and then we could let it slide a bit and live off the buffer.
Timing is surprisingly important in this game.
Yeah. And speaking about timing, shall we keep it hopefully under 2 hours?
What a segue.
Oh, you're awesome, sweetheart. So we are going to wrap up this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments.
Questions?
Questions.
Questions.
He wants to add bloopers, for God's sake.
No, you talk funny.
Yes, I do. Because I need coffee, nicotine, and we gotta go food shopping, and it's starting to rain outside. Anyways, again, thank you very much for...
say goodbye.
Yes, I will.
Do it now. Goodbye.
Where's the horse? Hold it. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments regarding this game, and I can't even get through it without laughing now. You're such a bad boy.
Thank you for watching. If you have something to say about what we should hear or know, there's a comment section below, so comment. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe to people you like. If we are among them, great. Would like to see you back next time. Maybe we talk about the game.
You would like to see his or her back?
No, I would like to see you come back next time.
Sorry.
So we might be talking about a game again.
Very likely.
Probably.
Very, very likely. High 90s.
Certainly.
Definitely. So
get ready for Essen, because it's coming up soon. Make your little wish list of
or even a larger
5,000 games that you're interested in, because we sure do, and I actually have to do that.
Yeah, go to work. I have to go to work too, having other videos covered for the weeks while we are at Essen. So we both gotta do some work before the show. So anyways, have fun, have a good Sunday. Maybe you get time to play a game with your friends or families, or kidnap somebody and play some board games and then release them afterwards. Have fun, goodbye, see you next Sunday, take good care, ta-di-da. Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh, tschüssi. Bye.